Right. Hi, welcome. Okay. I just got so nervous being in front of everybody. Oh my gosh. It's taking a minute to shake it out. Hi, I am Molly Herdler-Rins, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you all for coming to Designing Games from the Inside Out, Mental Health, Storytelling, and Creative Care. So, quick about me. It's me. My name's Molly. I am an art therapist. For those who don't know, an art therapist is, I'm a clinical therapist. I have my master's in counseling with a concentration in art therapy. So I practice kind of your typical therapy as you would expect, but I also incorporate art making in the process. So I have a strong passion for mental health and games because I don't know about y'all, but games have been very impactful for me as a player and in my own exploration, thinking about developing creativity side of things. And I see a lot of the benefits that development and play can have for personal mental health and for the players who are impacted by it. So kind of been my research wormhole that I go down. My husband Eric and I run Avant Beetle, which is an experimental game exhibition showcase. Eric is the main brainchild of it. We have games downstairs. Make sure you play them at some point. But it's kind of a pop-up gallery show looking at games as art, thinking about how games can be another way to experiment, play, live through people's lived experiences. I've also worked for Games for Change, which is a games for social impact nonprofit. I worked their festival, so please, huge shout out to our festival people who are running this because it's really hard and exhausting, so give them all the praise. And I love cats, so everything you need to know about me, oh my gosh. Okay. So what we're gonna cover, really broad topics, but curiosity is gonna be like the umbrella topic of this entire talk. In my clinical practice, in my life, I'm a really curious person. And I find that curiosity is one of the ways to approach any topic. So broad scale, if you think about curiosity, you're gonna, I don't have a good example about this, but almost think about you have an idea, something feels overwhelming. Approaching something with curiosity is gonna kind of open it up. If you're gonna approach it with judgment, it's gonna shut everything down. So anytime you've had an issue and you're like, well, this is the worst, I'm judging myself for this, I should have done this, X, Y, Z, you're just going straight down. As a developer, as a human, whatever it might be, going down that hole, shaming yourself never actually helps, even though it might feel good in the moment. So approaching with curiosity, even for today's talk, allows you just to think about things in a slightly different perspective and think about the why. Talking about mental health care, personal narrative, all of us are people. Raise your hand if you make games, if you want to make games, if you've played games. Okay, great. I'm not a developer. I don't make games. I've made some games, but that is not my bread and butter. There's parts where I'm really curious. I'd like to know more. It's really intimidating in certain ways too, but I love thinking about games. I love playing. I love playing with others. I love seeing why games are important. And in my clinical practice, I talk a lot about games. Many of my clients play a lot of games and have found a lot of connection and community through them. And it's such a cool way to explore things about yourself, to gain the insight, and in the development process, to then make games that are a bit more intentional, a bit more thoughtful. So overarching for today. Okay. Take a picture of this if you want to. Think about it. Do a little mind mapping. These are the questions that you should ask yourself at any point in your life. But specifically with playing games, thinking about curiosity. Why? When you are wanting to play a game, let's use that as an example. You're like, oh, I just am in the mood. I want to sit down and play a video game. What are you drawn to playing? And why? When are you drawn to them versus others? Are things happening in your life? Are you more or less stressed? Are you feeling really excited, really creatively enthused? Has the weather changed? Are you being more social, less? Are there any emotions you're wanting to check in? Are there any feelings that are coming up that you're trying to explore and you're like, oh, I've been so stressed, I hate work, I have this thing, I want to feel safe and secure? Are you then seeking out games that might allow you to feel that emotion? Does that make sense? Y'all tracking? Kind of? Okay. And you're like, what are you talking about? Great. Here's my life. This is me in a nutshell. this was a fun thought experiment where I took those questions and I was like, what do I play and when? There's very blurry, sorry. But this side of this, I love puzzle games. I love games that are gonna make me think, I can put things together, I can be challenged. When I have found that in my life, when I am wanting and I'm seeking more structure, I want to know things, I want to grow professionally, I'm just curious, I lean so heavily on puzzle games. I want to be able to deep dive into the Grim Fandango lore and figure out the next puzzle and challenge myself. I have space and capacity for that. And then I beat it and I'm like, I am God, and it's amazing. At other times, when I'm vastly overwhelmed, my brain is too heavy, I have hard things at work I'm processing, there are people I care about who are struggling, the weather is changing and I just want to be cozy, I'm going to be all the way over here, right? I want nostalgia. I want to play my DS. I want to download solitaire and just keep on playing and not have to think and not have to worry about failing. I want to just have ease and use my brain a little bit, but not feel like I'm bad for failing at something. I've also found that when I'm kind of in my sweet spot in my life, professionally, socially, this is my world. I love cozy games. I'm a helper. I love to be curious about people. I like to hear stories and be impacted by them. And so I want to know why there's a game that doesn't have any kind of communication in it, but I'm understanding the complexities of somebody's lived experience, breaking up, moving, being in relationships that are tough, that are beautiful, right? I want to cry. I want to have challenges that I can just like deep dive into. I want to think about death and dying in a cozy way, right? These are the games that really, when I'm here, right? None of them are good or bad, but this is my favorite space to be in. And I can tell things about my life when I'm craving a certain game that, oh, okay, maybe I need more of this outside of my life. Maybe I need a little bit more rest, a little bit more self-care. If I'm looking for Kim Possible, I probably need to take a little bit more of a break and a pause. If I am playing a ton of puzzle games, I'm like, oh, maybe I want to explore more professionally. Maybe there's more parts of my life that I could explore too, right? So it's not hard and fast, but there's benefit to creativity and curiosity for yourself to figure out like where you're at mentally and to just practice getting to know yourself and see how games might land. Now, as a developer, the same questions. So if you are, regardless of the game that you're creating, the role that you have, your sound, you are technical, you are, I'm going to name certain things, right? Whatever the world of games might be, all these questions still apply. If you love, I use my husband for example, ambiances is your world, right? Those are the things that fill you up. And I've seen, there's other developers I've seen that's like, this is what I'm drawn to. Here's when it really feeds and nourishes your soul. Be curious. Why do you like making those things? What about this kind of art style, this kind of gameplay, this kind of experience is really interesting? If you love the technical side of things, awesome. Why? Why is it interesting? There's no wrong answer to it, but ask yourself about that. Why is it that I only ever want to make puzzle games? And that's my dream. Because that information can really inform you and give you context about yourself. And it can help you figure out like, I want to make these games, but I'm making a totally different game instead. Kind of do a check-in. Am I fulfilling myself? Am I filling up my cup in a way that I want? Or am I doing something because I feel like I have to, and I'm not actually listening to my needs? Make sense? Far-fetched-ish? Cool. Okay. Thinking about those questions, all this information for yourself, when you're designing, you want to take your lived experience as an informant. So things I know about myself. I love cats. I love cozy games. I am a big feeler, right? I cannot relate to somebody who does not emotionally project and is not overwhelmed frequently. When I'm designing, when I'm drawn to things, even when I'm imagining games, all of those experiences inform my imagination. I'm not going to try to make a game about somebody who has never felt emotion in their life and doesn't have these huge experiences because I don't get it. I might ask somebody instead, talk to somebody who thinks differently than I am, who has a different experience. Same goes for, I am a cis white woman, right? That's my lived experience. That's informing how I look at the world. I'm not going to assume somebody else's life experience without asking them and then make a game about it without getting any kind of context. So when we look at our lived experiences, it leads to richer design because you've lived it, you do it, you know what it feels like to be stressed and trying to place blocks together and feeling the overwhelm of it. For me, I know what it feels like to feel extremely overwhelmed and want to do a task and feel frozen in the moment and not be able to finish my presentation because I've been so overwhelmed by it, right? I can make a game that can feel really realistic based on that, and for the player can also really feel true to that experience. So I'm not guessing, I'm thinking about what I know. Now, there's variation and there's complexity that comes with using lived experience in games. Does anybody know what these 3 games have in common? Yes. I love games about death. I think it's fascinating. These are games that pull from lived experience to a degree. They're all about death and dying. And they also are degrees of abstraction. They're degrees of personal experience that's really authentic storytelling and experience that is around an overarching idea. So has anybody played That Dragon Cancer? It's big, it's powerful. It's about the death of the developer's child, and it's a really, really honest game. It's has a lot of abstraction, a lot of metaphor, but it's a very direct one-on-one of what happened. And it's beautiful. The game was created by the developer as a way to process this death. It's a way to understand how they're feeling. It's also really hard to play and it's really sad. And that's beautiful. They lived it, they made that. They also cared for themselves while creating it. This game, have you ever played Spiritfarer? Okay. Love my life game. Also a game about death and dying. All of the examples of characters who are moving into the afterworld were inspired by the developers and their loved ones, their stories. They're kind of pieced together. They're not exact one-on-one examples, but there's enough abstraction so that there's enough kind of emotional safety for the developers to tell these stories while also not feeling like they're re-traumatizing themselves hearing it. Orchids to Dusk is downstairs. It's not for everybody, but I also love this game. It's another game about dying, and it's one that's pretty abstract. Your character just kind of fades away. You may not even realize that they're dying in the game, but it touches on really complex, heavy topics, very overwhelming ideas in a way that's pretty psychologically safe. So the point of this is that all of these games touch on the same idea. They touched on lived experience and personal feelings, but you don't have to share a really tough emotional story, such as That Dragon Cancer, for it to be impactful for both you and the player. You can also use the power of abstraction to bring things down a little bit, not re-traumatize yourself if that's not what you're trying to seek out, and have kind of safer tools in place. So emotional, psychological safety. Anybody ever told a story and it was had a big emotion attached to it, and then all of a sudden you're bursting into tears, oh my gosh, I feel way more I'm in it again, right? I think that's humanity. That's how we work. It's cool. Sometimes though, we don't realize how much we maybe haven't touched into a feeling yet, how much something might have impacted us, and we're time has passed by, so we should be over it. And then you're oh no, I'm crying in front of strangers. Oops. So that's fine, but especially in the game design world, you are in a medium that's requiring you to be present with something for a really long time. You're having to track over it over and over and over again. And although that is incredible, it also can be traumatizing in its own way if you're not taking care of yourself. So thinking about some of these games, even in these games, all of these have examples of in-game safe places, right? So you can go be cozy somewhere. And as the developer, you're able to say, I'm going to work on the cozy space today. I'm going to give myself that break. As the player, you also get time to breathe. You don't have to be in the overwhelm the entire time. You get breaks, you get time. Because if you're always stressed and feeling like here, like you're at your peak, it's not good for anybody. It's not helpful. So both from the personal side of things, the design side of things, you want to create those emotional safe places in the game. And for the player, you want to be able to have that space so you're not just stressing them out the whole time, right? I'm not going to play a game that I'm going to be crying the entire 8 hours for because I can't do that. But I want the peaks and valleys so I can tap into that feeling and then be able to recharge and reset a little bit. Shocker, that goes for life. Crazy. Give yourself space, give yourself capacity. Check in for what your needs are. So this is not just the designing side, this is the living side. We can't function at capacity 100% of the time, particularly for those who might be students, real life too, right? As much as I want to be functioning at my highest capacity and just get everything done and be excellent at it all the time, like I can't, I crash, I burn. And then I'm overwhelmed, and then all the feelings come up. So I have to create boundaries for myself. In games, we have physical boundaries that we're developing, right? But when you're designing, especially when you're tapping into these personal experiences, create boundaries for yourself. How long are you allowed to work on something, actually? You have to enforce it, even if you're in that creative zone. Are you feeding yourself and sleeping? Right? We're toddlers at our core. So if you're not doing those things, then like, sucks, you're gonna feel bad. It's gonna be harder. Are you leaning on your community? I think there's like Stardew Valley is a game I showed on there. It's like a great example of like the developer who did it all on his own and is in that kind of silo. That's not realistic, particularly for developers, because it's a social experience. The intention is for others to play and engage in your story. And if you're not asking for support, leaning on your community, just like being a human with other people, then you're doing yourself a disservice and you're doing your game a disservice, right? Particularly as students too, leaning on mentors, leaning on peers, giving yourself permission to make mistakes, to play, right? If you don't give yourself that permission, then the curiosity, right? There's no more curiosity, you're just kind of shaming yourself. You're giving yourself room to exist, and you're making a better game. Kind of final, there's a lot just hard-hitting points. But the final is ethical storytelling too. Kind of, I feel like talking about mental health, I wanted to make sure I named this. Because when we pull from our own lived experiences, a lot of us we're people, we have complex stories, we have diagnoses, we have family, we have those that we love and support and want and have seen go through things. Sometimes it can be really enticing to tell other people's stories that are based on assumptions, or that might just not be the right way to tell that story. So thinking about representation of mental health, thinking about any experience that you don't know specifically about, like just do some check-in, ask your friends, ask your community, do some research, ask yourself, why do I feel like I need to represent this specific diagnosis, whatever it is, in this way? And am I hurting anybody in doing that? If the answer is yes, then ask again, okay, then why? Why do I feel like this is the right way to do this? The answer is, I don't know. Then ask who? Who can I talk to? That might be useful to get more context for. Right? When is the best time for me to tell this? So just kind of go through, be curious, have intention, because it just helps you, and it's a lot more respectful to the communities that you're trying to portray without causing harm. Yeah, we don't want to reinforce stereotypes. It's not really not helpful. So, kind of main takeaways, among other things. Let yourself be a human when you're developing. Both on the creative side, use your informed experience, but on the personal side, like, take care of yourself. Your emotions matter, your experience matters, and if you aren't checking on your needs, then you're not really making a good game, and you're not being a better person. Not a shaming thing, but allow for curiosity. Okay. Thanks. That's my thanks.